Hi, it's Jeff Alpin, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours for Friday, May 6th, 2022. I spend time Tuesdays and Fridays fielding questions from people about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership. I just answer questions where people seek advice from individuals about some workplace related issue. And if you've got a question for me, put that question into chat during this show. This way I can answer your question and you can get a different opinion or confirmation of your opinion, however it turns out. But I'm here to provide you with support professionally. I consider myself a no BS career coach, which means I cover and support people in these different work areas. I'll also remind you there's a lot more at my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. You can schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule time for coaching, find about my courses, books, and guides, and a lot more at the website. There's just a ton there that can help you that's completely searchable. You ought to subscribe to my YouTube channel at JobSearchTV.com, where on Tuesdays and Fridays, the YouTube channel is JobSearchTV.com, and it's videos about job search primarily, and every once in a while I stick something else in there that's professionally oriented. In addition, Monday through Friday, No BS Job Search Advice Radio shows up in Apple Podcasts. Spotify is a video podcast, Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever you listen to shows, you can wind up listening or watching it because, again, it's a video podcast on Spotify. Whatever works for you, there's just great information to support you. Now, I start off these shows with a coffee toast, and today's toast is for those of you who work in nonprofit. You know you don't make the most money. However, it has meaning to you. You're helping people who need help. Thank you. So, with that coffee toast, I've got a lot of different questions from people. Let me just scroll up here for a second so I can get to the first one on my list. So, the first one is, do background checks look at a resume? So my assumption that you're looking here is, you're trying to find out whether they're going to look at your resume as part of the background check. They're going to more likely look at your application as part of the background check. Why do I say that? Really very simple. Resumes are not a legal document. However, applications are. And if you look at most of them, there's a little footnote that says, if you wind up being found to falsify information on your application, it's grounds for termination if they find out post-employment. So, I'll just simply say, be honest when you complete applications. There's someone I was speaking with earlier today. I've coached him before, and he was looking for some advice about a situation with a firm that looks like he's about to receive an offer from. And in doing so, he was approached not long after he joined a new firm by this other firm and submitted a LinkedIn profile and a resume that he hadn't updated. And this is only a few months ago. And now he's close to an offer, and he realizes they're working off of old data. And he asked me what to do. And I said, I want you to call HR, and I want you to say this. When you contacted me about the position, I was in a hurry to respond because what you were describing was really exciting. And thus I submitted an old LinkedIn profile and resume to you. But it's 2 months later, and now you're first making an offer. And I want to make sure that you know that, I didn't realize, or didn't remember, I should say, that I submitted old data. I just want to make sure you have up-to-date information. And he hasn't completed an application yet, So that's not an issue. He's just submitted a LinkedIn profile and an older resume, and he wants to make sure, and rightly so, that they're not blindsided when they do a background check that he's working at a different company. Same thing applies to you. If you're working at a firm and they find out something incongruous with your resume, well, why didn't you tell them that you were working someplace else? Were you afraid? Well, the application is really the pivotal thing. But if they look at the resume, find something incongruous, they'll find out the truth. And they'll come back to you and say, I didn't realize. Oh, I'm so sorry. And you say much the same thing I told this person to say, and that should get you out of the jam. But try to be proactive rather than put yourself in an awkward position. Next question is, there we go. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. The next one. What does potential conflict mean on a background check? It means that they found out that there's something that's incongruent in your background and they need to talk with you. So whatever it is, you want to be in a situation where you don't want to be found out in this way. You always want to be proactive. So someone responded to this question before I did. So I'm just going to read you a couple of points here from what they had reported. So number one, of course, is what I had said. They found something inconsistent. Number two is, they have a public persona and yours may be problematic for them. So, for example, the classic case is they're conservative and they have found all the bong photos of you from college online and they're concerned. There's also the situation where you have a part-time job that could cause a conflict. It could be that they're a vendor or a client of the prospective employer and there's a conflict of interest and a contract between the two parties, that is the vendor or consulting firm or the employer, that they can't poach people from one another. So that causes issues. There's also something about not really liking the image you represent to them. You've got a side hustle that's a problem. There's lots of little things that could be problematic for an employer that this question represents. So get in touch with them so you understand what the issue is, and good luck. Does onboarding mean you passed the background check? Could be, but in some organizations, it may also be that they begin this process before you actually start. And thus, I would ask them point blank whether you've passed the background check. And thus, they're just getting ready for you to start by doing this onboarding process. That's the way I would approach this because some firms do it differently than others. I know I was responding to a comment on LinkedIn about ghosting, and employers are getting upset that job hunters are not showing up for the first day of work. How terrible. It's awful that they're ghosted. And I pointed out that there tends to be a gap between the time a person accepts an offer and they start, and firms kind of leave them alone during that time, while others are there whispering in their ear. So one of the things I pointed out is you could begin the onboarding process and orientation before they start. So on day one, this is all complete. So it could be something like that. We just don't know. So you've got to talk with them before doing anything else. Okay, we got another question. I still got many more. If you don't get shortlisted for a job you believed you are well qualified for? Is it worth asking the HR department or requesting a review? Ask HR. Don't request a review. Um, I'll simply say the HR may give you some vacillating answer because they don't really know. They're just told by the department, not interested. And they will probably tell you, we found someone much stronger, or words to that effect. It basically says, leave me alone. I don't know anything. So have a great weekend, and kind of push you away. But ask. Asking for a review, they're not going to do that. What's in it for them? You were rejected, and they want to move on and find someone qualified, and they don't judge you to be that way. So you may have thought you did well, but it probably isn't going to be the first time your opinion of something was not accurate. So I just want to remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question in the chat and I'll answer it on today's show. Okay? And if someone's watching me on LinkedIn, just put a message into chat. I just like knowing I'm being watched on LinkedIn in particular, because this is simulcast to LinkedIn, YouTube on the JobSearchTV.com live stream there, and on Facebook at Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, that page of mine there. I'll also remind you to visit my website to schedule a time for a free discovery call, schedule a time for coaching, to find out about my books and guides and courses, to go to my blog, which has over 12,000 searchable posts about job search, hiring, etc. There's just a ton there that'll help you. So also, and this will be the last time I mention this, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube, download it on Amazon, because I have an app on Amazon as well. You can subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Monday through Friday, I do my show there. The first 4 days of the week, it tends to be shorter, like 7 to 10 minutes generally. On Fridays, I release a longer form interview that I bring in an expert who talks about some aspect of job search. I'll mention to you this week, and again, this is May 6th, 2022, I have a great interview with someone about applicant tracking systems and how they really work and how to have your resume positioned to be really seen by the applicant tracking system and refer you instead of just simply shall we say, wasting people's times. So I've got a message from Frank. What advice do you give to frequent job hoppers? Cool. So the first piece of advice is don't become a frequent job hopper if you can avoid it. Sometimes positions are misrepresented. Sometimes people act out of desperation to take a job because they're out of work and they need income. I don't fault you. Now, if you're someone who has a limited attention span for your work, one of the things I tell people to do is consider consulting work or temporary work, because what that does is allows you to change jobs without having to change jobs. You're a temp through a firm, you're a consultant through a firm, not a contractor, you're a consultant through a firm, and they're moving you around. But sometimes people job hop because they don't really understand the nature of the position they're taking. And as a result, they wind up in situations where they get into trouble professionally. So try to avoid it if you can, and ask better questions at your interviews, because if it's your fault, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing wrong that's landing you in hot water rather than in situations that you can be proud of? So that's what I would tell frequent job hoppers. Let's see now. If you are offered an AI interview, let's see, I'll put that in the chat. If you're offered an AI interview, does that mean my CV has been successful? I don't know what you mean by successful. Well, they're using technology to screen you. And as such, you're still early in the game. It doesn't mean that they're hiring you. They're having their systems do some preliminary work to evaluate and assess you. And as a result, um, they're trying to figure out, are you worth real interviewing? So they're using AI systems to do a pre-screen. And does that mean you were successful? I don't know what you mean by successful, really. I have no idea whatsoever. Okay. Does HR hire employees based upon their appearance? I'm not sure if I answered that on Tuesday. So excuse me if this is a double dip, but HR doesn't hire people. Yeah, I answered this during the Tuesday show. HR doesn't hire people, they screen people. As a result, what they're trying to do is get a benchmark as to what you know that relates to um, the job that they're trying to fill. As a result, does it mean that you've been successful? Well, your CV, your resume has gotten through their system. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong question. I apologize. They don't hire people, first of all. They screen people to reject them. Once they've filtered people down from there, what they do is attempt to refer them to hiring managers who make decisions. With the hiring managers, appearance matters up to a point, but if you're not competent to do the job, most of the time, you're not going to wind up getting hired. As a result, do employers hire based on a person's appearance? Probably as a tiebreaker, they do, but you're not hired because you're a good looking man or an attractive woman, because once you're on board, you have work to do. So it's rare that someone is filtered in that way. So really, no. This one I got during the week, and it says, "We received your application for this position. Thank you for applying. We were interested in your resume, but I'd like to confirm what your salary expectations are." And it goes on to say they have a budget in the high 40s, and they want to make sure that'll work for this person. So the long and the short of it is this person needs a salary of 49, not 48. As a result, thank you, Terry. I appreciate you giving me a thumbs up on Facebook. I appreciate it. So this person needs 49. They don't want to take 48. The job is one that normally would pay more, but they've been out of work for a while. So what they're trying to do is make sure that they're not wasting someone's time. Legally, they can't ask what your salary is in New York, where this person resides, and a number of other places around the country. As a result, once they are trying to engage with you, they just want to make sure you're not looking for 60 or 65. So they're telling you upper 40s. And what I messaged this person to say is, yes, I can do that, but what I would really look for is highest 40s, so that they don't think of 47 as being the right number, let alone 47.5 or 48. And that just gives them a message that this is what you're looking for, and that you don't wind up getting trapped. Let's go to another question. If companies are beginning to hire new employees at higher wages, what will they do for their employees who've been loyal to them and with them for a number of years? Here's the truth. I told you I'm a no BS career coach. So here's the truth of it. They will do nothing. They'll give you incremental raises, 5%, 6%. Ooh, big deal. Inflation's at 8.5%. And thus for you to make 8.5%, because government takes out taxes on that, right? They take out about 30%. So that means 8.5% brings you down to 6. So if they're offering you 5%, like most companies do, that means you're really getting 3.5% after taxes. So what are they going to do for their people? They're going to give them a wonderful speech about how important you are to them, how meaningful your work is, and they're going to try and get you on the cheap. That's really what most firms are going to do. Will changing the address to a location closer to a company help improve the chances of an interview? Now, caveat number one is that you need to be qualified for the position that you're applying for. If you're not qualified, it doesn't matter whether you lived across the street, in their lobby, or anywhere else in the country. You're not qualified. So the fact of it is you have to demonstrate that you're qualified. And if you live 2.5 hours away, and that's what your resume tells them, they're not going to probably interview you because they're not going to believe you can put up with this for very long. So don't be surprised that you get a few more interviews. And Terry, I'm not so funny. Thank you for thinking that I am, but I'm not so funny. So you'll wind up, if you're closer, you're more likely to get a shot of the interview versus if you're 2.5 hours away and you've got a problem. What are some common product management interview questions for tech firms? Well, I love this. Here's the best answer I can give you. Ever hear of Google? Why don't you Google the answer to that question? There's so many sites that offer questions that are asked on interviews. And product management interview questions for tech firms, do a Google search, use Google as the example, and move on. Don't waste my time. Google's the perfect answer for you. And use that to find out some of the questions they might ask. I'm going to make this my last question today. On a job interview, is it advisable for the interviewee to open salary negotiations before the employer does, and why? I tend to think of you asking this question as being less experienced. I could be wrong, but you can understand when salary negotiation is starting. It starts when they ask you about how much you're looking for in the way of salary. That's when it's starting. Terry, you can, if you've got a question, put it into chat. If you want me to entertain you, don't. I can't do it. I just got other things to do today. So as soon as they're asking about what your salary is, they're negotiating. As soon as they're asking what you're looking for, they're negotiating. And when they're asking you, are you willing to be a little flexible for a great opportunity? They're negotiating. If they're asking for a salary range that you'd find acceptable, they're negotiating. That's at the screener round of interviews. You haven't even met the hiring manager, and they're already negotiating. You haven't gotten past any part of the real process, they're negotiating. So is it advisable for you to open salary negotiations before they do? They're always going to be ahead of you on this. And you have to recognize that when they're asking you what you're looking for, and they're negotiating, if you state a number to them, they believe that that range is what you're looking for, and you really don't know much about the firm, the opportunity, or more. So I'll just simply say, if they ask, are you willing to be a little flexible, or what are you open to a range of such between such and such and such and such? The correct answer is, for now I can say yes, but I really don't know enough about the position to really commit to that. After all I've seen is a job description that may or may not be accurate. I haven't met my future boss, gotten the sense of the scope of the work. I haven't really found out much of anything. I haven't met the team. I don't have a sense of what the expectations are. And Terry points out, if you give a range, they'll offer the lower number or somewhere toward the lower number. They may come in a little higher and make it seem like they're being beneficent, but the fact of the matter is you've got to duck and defer. And thus, if they ask you about the salary range you're looking for, you look a little bit, frustrated and say, look, all I've seen is a job description or a job ad. I haven't met my future boss, gotten a real picture of what the role is, what the responsibilities are, gotten a sense of the team, have no idea of the benefits, and a lot more. So you can put down what you like, but once I know more, I can actually answer the question. So in the meantime, I just simply say, can we circle back to that question on another occasion? Because again, I don't know enough about this job to really commit to it. And they'll be a little annoyed and a little bit frustrated, but so what? You caught them trying to box you into a situation, and you wind up not losing by doing this. And let me just see. And what if you have? Frank, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Could you explain this a little bit differently? If you have told them a range, is that what you mean? I'm going to start by answering that. If you've told them a range, what you can do is circle back after the interview and say, I mentioned the salary range when we were talking. And the fact is, now that I've interviewed for the role, I have a sense of the scope and the responsibilities, what the team is like. I've met my manager. I think fundamentally, I think it makes more sense if we talk after I've had a chance to meet everyone, get a clearer idea about the position. And Frank clarifies, what if you've already met your future boss and the team is such? Now that I know more about the position, I think the correct value for me is such and such. And thus what you're able to do is get off their numbers and onto your own. Because at the time that they were strong-arming you, you really didn't have a sense of what was going to be expected of you. And the market has changed with inflation now. You've got to get more. So that's the way I would handle it. If you've already met everyone, you kind of defer a little bit, circle back, and say, now that I've had a chance to really get a clearer picture of the job, its responsibilities, get a sense of the team and my manager, I think I really understated what my value was. I'd be looking for a salary of whatever it is. So that's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to remind you, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton in the blog that can help you, like over 12,000 searchable posts that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you. You can find about my courses, books, and guides. Again, a lot there to help you. You can schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, and much more at the website. And if this isn't the right time for you to visit it, at least put the address in your phone. This way you have a chance to circle back on a later occasion. Okay. Also going to mention, again, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. That's the name of the app on Amazon. You can watch me on your big screen set. This big head of mine can be on your big screen. And subscribe to Nobia's Job Search Advice Radio and Apple Podcasts. on Spotify, where it's a video podcast, on Amazon Music, Google Play, or almost anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's just a lot there that I put out that will help you. Lastly, I'm going to say, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.